be a little quiet here. It's 0 dark 30. It's 5:15 in the morning. Don't want to wake up the wife. She's up there snoring away. I had a phone call, or I made a phone call last evening. And to kind of mimic somebody of our acquaintance, I made a phone call. It was a perfect phone call. It was a beautiful phone call. There. I had to get it out of my system. That's my politics for the day. Part of it was on hide glue. So I'm going to get into that. It's kind of entertaining. I was talking about the whole Facebook thing, right? And I said, well, now that I have a friend, you know, I'm getting bow feeds, stuff like that. But I'm also getting, I went on there just, I'm curious, you know, my wife and I, we watched Scamfish. It's a YouTube channel. It's amazing how these people are just throwing money away on, say, their boyfriend's Johnny Depp, you know, and it turns out to be some guy in Nigeria. But I'm like, I'm going to check my Facebook. I wonder if I've got any scammers that are trying to get a hold of me. And I go there and I get the feed from my friend that's in the bows. It's good feeds. Perfect feeds. Beautiful feeds. Little Trump stuff there. But they go, people you might know. And there was a person, for all practical purposes, it was Lizzo in a tiny purple bikini. It's like, no, I don't think so. And then I did get a friend request from somebody, which very well could be a scammer. It's like, why would this, I'll say it, attractive young woman give me a friend request? I don't even have a picture of me on Facebook. All I've got is like a couple bow pictures. That's kind of suspicious. I didn't acknowledge it. Although, if your name is Jennifer and you're into bows, let me know. And, you know, but other than that, that's a no-go. But then we got into the mixture of hide glue. And what do I have here? This is my thick mixture. I've got thick mixture. And he was wondering, excuse me, kind of sniffly. As usual, I know. What is the mixture? Now keep in mind, as it sits, you know, I've got a cover over it. You can kind of see some stamp. It'll evaporate off, so the mixture changes. You know, if it gets so thick that you just don't like it, add some water to it. It's not scientific. It's not like baking where you have to have the exact measurements. If you do the standard sinew backing where you've got all the little bundles there and you're dipping it in here, and you notice that your fingers are now 4 times the diameter because they're covered with hide glue, maybe put some more water in there. You know, I start out maybe with, by volume, just by looks. I'll pour my flake hide glue in there, right? And then maybe I'll add 2 times by volume the water to it. That's a good standard. I don't heat it right away. I just let it sit for hours until it kind of, you know, swells up and it just looks like little pellets or whatever of swollen wet hide glue. And then I'll heat it. And I use as little heat as possible because I'm sure that, like, if you overheat the stuff, get it too hot over extended periods of time, maybe it'll break down those protein chains. Maybe it won't be as strong. So I use as little heat as possible. But picture this. Room temperature. 60 to 68 degrees or whatever, you know. I'm thinking Midwest here. And it gels. I poke at it. If it's almost hard, doesn't have enough water in it. If it doesn't gel, you've got too much water. It just needs to be like Jell-O, you know. But again, the exact viscosity, the exact water mixture, it doesn't matter. Hide glue is a very forgiving medium. Now I've got a thinner, and this is soaking in. There's hide glue, and then there's a wad of sinew in there that's currently soaking in hot water. I'm going to add some more hot water here, pardon me. I like that mixture, and again, you know, to gel, softly at room temperature. And an ungel when it's just sitting in a Tupperware with warm water. That's enough. Getting back to the original story on how I decided I'm just going to throw all my sinew in this Ziploc baggie, a gallon-sized baggie, and have a weakish hide glue mixture, and then just pull it out a strand or a bundle at a time, whatever. That's hide glue. That's sinew backing, whatever. It's good enough. Is that I broke a bow on purpose. I peeled that sinew off. I soaked it, picked out the wood, aligned all the fibers, stuck it in a bag, and then I was looking at it thinking, you know, those fibers already have glue in it. I'm going to size a bow and just pull them out of there and stick them on, and it worked. The same deal as the natives back in California, IA, might have a wad of hide glue, like a jawbreaker, and then just take the sinew and chew on it, mixing it with spit. I know that's not very delicate. In the hide glue and just stick it on the bow, and it worked. Hide glue is very, very forgiving. There was also the question of make a sinew back Osage bow and the sinew delaminates. Was it because when I was sizing it, I let the hide glue dry too much, or it needs to be tacky, whatever? Really, the failure is that first, that initial sizing on the back of that bow. Was the bow greasy? Was it prepared? And I was saying that it doesn't matter, you know, if you size the bow, whether or not it's a little tacky, that last layer of sizing, or it's dry, that's not what causes delamination. The delamination is right. That against that wooden surface. How did you first put that layer of sizing on? I'll take on a warm bow, keep from gelling, maybe just rub water on it. That's my first sizing layer, is water that has a little bit of Dawn detergent in it. So the first layer of glue you put on can absorb. But did you degrease that Osage? Did you take 60 or 80 grit sandpaper and just scarf it up a little bit, roughen it up without violating the growth ring? Which if it's sinew back, you can have some violations. Maybe take a miter saw, a back saw as it is. Not a power miter saw, but just that rectangular thing. They call it a back saw because it's got a spine on the back. And just tip to tip. Then it got into, quote unquote, is it an oxymoron to sinew back an Osage longbow? And I said, I'll tell you a secret. It's not too much of a secret. I've talked to a maker and a seller of Osage longbows, and he told me that they don't necessarily, you don't need on a 66-inch, let's just use 66-inch, 28-inch draw, Osage longbow that's 50 to 60 pounds, you don't need to sinew back it. But the reason this person said he sinew backs them is he doesn't want to see those bows again. He doesn't want to hear that their friend wanted to show how strong they were and they drew it to the moon and broke it, damaged it. So sinew backing is insurance. You don't need to sinew back if it's properly made in Osage longbow. You really don't. If it's 50, 60 pounds, 28-inch draw, 66 inches long, there and abouts, it's a solid enough wood not to even back it. But a lot of bow makers will back stuff. I do. I'll sell a paddle bow. It doesn't need to be backed, but I'll put rawhide on it because I've had, literally, people that have overdrawn it, had too high brace heights, and they damage them. And I don't want to see that bow again. I don't want to replace it. It's a little inside information there. So what I'm doing now, why do I have this heating up? Why do I have my sinew being prepared? I'm going to put the tip wraps on my Holmgaard. I'm not going to back it. Don't need to back it. It's got good grain. It's bias ring. It's a board bow, but it doesn't need to be backed. In fact, it's caused a little controversy here. Working down to a growth ring in a self bow is a relatively modern invention. There was a time where they didn't really concern themselves with working down to a growth ring. If you look at the grain patterns in the traditional Boyer's Bibles of native bows, you'll see violated growth rings. You really will. They were well tillered. They didn't make them 150 pounds. Some of them, old European bows, were bias rings. They would split off wood and they would be just like a board bow. And so I'm thinking, I don't wanna back my Holmgaard bow. The original ones weren't backed. The original ones could very well be bias ringed. They were elm, which has interlocking grain, not red oak, but you know, if I tiller it properly, reasonable draw weight, I don't know what the length of that is, 64 inches maybe. And then it's accurate. Maybe it's not 64, I'm just throwing that number out there, but it's accurate in length and it's accurate in width and shape when you're looking at the face. And the people back then weren't as tall as us, so this bow probably wasn't drawn to 28 inches. You know, unless they were doing because they weren't as tall as we are, and you know, it's an accurate length. So I'm going to make it an accurate bow, aside from not being elm. That's it. I'm going to have another cup of coffee, try to wake up. Yeah, I know. Yesterday morning, I was like, for some reasons, I don't know why, went to YouTube. I go on YouTube. It's really my only, I don't do Instagram or anything like that, just YouTube. It's like, what is the worst job you ever had? And trust me, there's some horrid jobs out there, and a lot of them center around working in meat processing plants. And so, you know, if you're sitting back thinking you've got a horrible job, it probably isn't. You know, in the greater scheme of things, there's some desperately crappy jobs out there. What we have many times are just irritants. But that is all. You have a good one. Thank you for watching.